The following episode does not constitute medical advice and is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It's like GPS for your life. The Sky Vibe Show. Authentic, practical astrology in easy-to-understand terms. With your host, Judi.Diamond, and professional astrologer, Thomas Miller. Continuing on, do you look, are your features your sun or rising sign? Hello, Thomas. You ready?
I'm ready. Are you ready? Because you know what the first one is that we're going to do is you.
Ooh, this will be fun.
Leo
okay,
is
Leos.
up. Yes. All right.
Fire sign.
Well, and we said in the last episode, but you know this. How do you spot a Leo when they walk into the room?
Oh, yeah. You know immediately it's like the hair, the sunshine. You feel like they're big old. I mean, I get it all the time. You got to be a Leo with that big red hair mane.
Yeah, they call it a mane, don't they? Right?
Yep.
Because it is. It's the Leo the lion, and Leo is ruled by the sun. So it is about shining out big and bright. So facial features, strong, dynamic, prominent, shining, high cheekbones, prominent chin, that kind of thing. Very good structure in the face. Warm.
Bill Clinton's Leo. Check him out.
Yeah.
Whitney Houston, again, all these Leos that I know.
You know, so many people who use a microphone in some kind of way, pastors, preachers, politicians, actors, actresses, etc. You figure, I mean, even beyond a camera for sure, but a microphone as well, are often Leos because they just want to be seen and heard in public. They have a message.
Center of attention.
Yes, exactly. But they also have that warmth and the radiance of expression that you would think would come with the sun as well. So one of the things about that characteristic hair, thick, full, goes with the air of regality, doesn't it? You know?
Yeah.
And that's the other thing about Leos is their gait. You know, they walk pronounced. You can tell when they're coming. I was married to a doctor for a while, and she was a Leo, and she wore these high-heel spike shoes, and walking down the hallway of the hospital, you could always tell when she was coming. Clickety-clack, clickety-clack, clickety-clack. You know, boom, Leo's coming down the hall. Another thing is,
if you make an entrance, you're a Leo.
Yep, you make a big entrance. Even if you're walking into a patient's room in the hospital as a doctor, you know, they're going to know you've come in. It's that grand John Williams theme music playing in the background kind of thing. Now, Leo rules the heart and the spine, the upper back. So we would think, too, broad shoulders again. We've talked about this in the last episode. They can also be taller in some cases, not always. But genetics comes into that a lot, but Leos can stand tall. So
interestingly enough, I use a microphone for my job, and I cannot tell you how many times people said, I thought you were going to be taller by your sound. And they meet me because of genetics. I'm 5'1" and a sneeze. And I think it's fascinating that even your features can come across in your voice.
Yes, exactly. See, so even though you are physically not 5'10", your voice is 5'10". You have a very powerful voice. Your roar is loud and full and right.
Crazy, isn't it?
You can command, shake the walls with that voice.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. All right. Let's roll on now to the Earth sign. This is the fifth sign of the zodiac, Virgo, which is ruled by Mercury. So we're back to now another sign that's ruled by Mercury. Remember we talked about Gemini last time? Here's the other one that Mercury rules, and that's Virgo. Why do they rule two, you would ask?
Well, because Virgo is immutable or a double sign just like Gemini?
No, Virgo is probably about as singular as you could get. But remember, back before we had Neptune, Uranus, Pluto, there were only 7. So the early Chaldean astrologers could only see out to Saturn. So there were 7 planets, well, actually 2 luminaries and 5 planets, but they had to double up. And that's the bottom line of why some planets have 2 signs. All right, so let's get back to the facial features.
Yes.
So so first of all, Virgo rules basically like what an internal medicine doctor would investigate. Things about the abdomen, intestines, gallbladder, pancreas, liver, that kind of thing. So it's not as physical from the outside, but it is related to our health and to our general well-being. So often Virgos are very health conscious. Now, they could also be a little bit health concerned from a phobia kind of standpoint, but they also resemble the Earth-like characteristics that we talked about last time with Taurus.
Mm-hmm.
So they have that groundedness about them.
Can I add that I think from the Virgos I know, if you can spot one from their clothes are always in perfect, neat, like they always have everything in its order.
I am so glad you said that because that's a trademark Virgo characteristic. And yes, that's exactly right. So hair, always perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well groomed.
Pressed suits.
Yes.
The creases have to be perfect in the pants, at least for my brother.
Now, typically around the face, we've talked about this on a couple of other characteristics. Now we're getting into some of the repeating patterns, but that soft oval face that we talked about with Cancer last time.
And there's a good lookingness to a lot of Virgos I know. I don't know if that's for everyone, but...
Oh, they are, typically, yes. And Virgo is one of the most solid signs. I mean, I've always said if you want to hire the best employee, I know you can't do this with all of the hiring laws we have these days, but Virgos make excellent employees. So wherever you find them in the company, you know they are a dedicated worker. Typically, they'll be one of the last ones to leave the building, them and the Capricorns, the other Earth sign.
Gosh, ain't that the truth?
Yeah.
And yet two completely different type of signs. And I will say, you had mentioned something about Virgos. My brother has always had issues with his tummy, intestines, and stuff. And I wonder if that has... Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No. See, that's what I was saying is the tie with the health-related issues. A health focus, if you will.
Wow.
So, yeah, definitely. What is his height? Because typically Virgos might be on the shorter side. Again, this is not
a short family, and he is the tallest of us, but still he's, 5'9", 5'10", maybe, average.
Yeah. See, that's not an imprinted thing. You can't just take that to the bank, but it is one of those things that typically they could skew on the shorter side. So the main things about Virgo, you mentioned it. You really kind of nailed it. It's that neatness in their grooming. And the whole presentation, as you said, the clothes, everything is about orderliness. So that's, if you see a propensity to that, chances of them being a Virgo rising or sun sign are pretty high.
They got Virgo in the chart.
Now let's move to number 6, the air sign Libra. We're back to Venus again. So here we are with
beauty.
Venus. Yes, beauty. And that's the thing. Librans, I mean, one of the things I always said about Libra is they have the biggest, thickest Rolodex of anybody in the zodiac. That's where we used to keep our phone numbers, folks.
Yes. Not just if they had a phone, they need 2 for all their contacts.
Librans they're probably one of the most, them and Sagittarians, social signs in the zodiac. Librans love to interact with other people and just make connections. And I knew a guy that was a Libran, and he always had a coffee shop meeting at 7 a.m. set up somewhere, and every day of the week he was meeting somebody, networking. What have you got going on? And here I'm, just connecting dots all the time.
And they want to make people happy so you feel good around them, it seems.
Oh, that is so true. Absolutely. And now you bring another side of Venus that Taurus was more the earthy, practical, wholesome side. But with Libra, we're talking about that truly beautiful, sensual side. They are, it's like you see your preferred sex of somebody who's a Libra, and it's like, there's attraction often.
So true. Yep.
And like we talked about last time as well with Taurus, the accompanying facial features. So they could have those cute little dimples. They could have a little crook in their nose that, some people would say, oh, I need to get that fixed. But you go, oh, no, that's what I love about you. It just, that brings me in.
They've got a little aura. You can't really describe it, but it's a social thing where you just get, it's that magnet. You want to be a part of their world.
Yes, exactly. And they do that with their face. So it's their eyes and their cheekbones and their smile.
And once again, what is the planet that rules them?
Venus.
Okay.
Now, as far as what the sign rules, that's the lower back, kidneys, and endocrine system. So here we are, more of the internal side. So those attributes don't show up as much on the outside. what is the prominent characteristic from Venus and Libra is just the beauty. It really is. Mm-hmm. They are well put together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
All right, and then the last one is my sign, my sun sign, Scorpio, which is ruled by Pluto and Mars. And see, this is the first time we've hit this in our little series. Mars was that original Chaldean ruler of Scorpio, which is interesting because Mars is a fire sign. Mars, remember from the last episode, Aries.
Yeah.
I always say Scorpio is a fire water sign. It's got a lot of fire with it.
I'm a Scorpio rising, and I still don't believe Scorpio is a water sign. I'm sorry.
No, it was originally fire, fire planet. It was always water, but they had the slots. I mean, the system it's symmetric. They just had to fit everything in. In 1930, Pluto was discovered, and now we had co-rulership because Pluto was attributed all the characteristics of transformation. And that's the main thing about Scorpio. So Scorpio rules the reproductive organs and the pelvis area and the rectum area.
So let's put it to you this way. If you were during the 1970s disco and you saw some guy swinging his hips, he's probably a Scorpio.
Well, we're talking about the facial characteristics here, but yeah, Scorpio rules the reproductive areas. So there is that.
I knew it. If they're coming on to you strong, they've probably got something in them that's Scorpion.
Well, I'll tell you the one way, and we talked about it in the last podcast when we were introducing this series. We talked about that gaze, that piercing, analyzing, going right into your soul like you don't have any secrets anymore kind of stare from a Scorpio.
It's a good one. They're almost dissecting and finding everything about you with that stare, and they don't mean it to be harsh. Some might.
But that's one of the main characteristics. Now, I know you've talked about on the show here and on the air that you've talked about dating a Scorpio. Do you see that? Does that show up?
Oh, heck yes. Absolutely. But because I went from a Pisces to a Scorpio. And the thing is, because I have a Scorpio rising and he was a Scorpio sun, we would both just stare. It was easy to stare at each other, try to dissect each other.
Yeah. You're trying to just go right into their soul. Like there's no surface kind of stuff. You're going, whoa, I'm going right in. I'm going deep.
The difference, him being a sun sign or sun Scorpio and me being the rising, he had a tendency, because, and this is, I think, a difference between rising and sun, to want to hide more, whereas I wanted the answers right there.
Well, that's true. Yes. And
so, but
you look at the little icon of Scorpio, the scorpion hides all the time, right? They're rarely seen out. So you have to disturb them in order to get a reaction. But if you do, pow, watch out. It's going to be a good one. So with that, what would you think, as far as hair color, eye color, darker, right?
Yes.
Darker hair, darker brown eyes. I've got brown eyes. Their face, well, strong features, I think, would be the main characteristic here. However those show up. But
good hair.
It all supports that expression. Yeah, thick eyebrows, good full head of hair, exactly. Well-defined head, a good sturdy build to their frame, strong shoulders, good solid build.
I think if you were to look across the room, I like to bring up being at a party because I love doing this when I'm at a gathering of people.
Yeah.
And somebody walks into a room, you don't notice them at first because they've been in the corner. And then all of a sudden your eyes go to this looming guy, kind of like a Clark Gable type or a Humphrey Bogart, leaning against the wall, good looking as hell. And you're like, whoa, that guy's got something.
Yeah. And from what we've talked about now so far through the signs, what would you expect that person could be?
Oh, a Scorpio.
A Scorpio. Why would he not be a Gemini? Because some of those same characteristics we talked about in Gemini, but why would that not be a good Gemini candidate?
Because he's not communicating with people right away. He's not searching the crowd.
Yep, exactly. Hanging on the outside.
Yep, inspecting and gathering information.
I don't drink. I haven't for a long time. But back in those days, I never did fit in bars. I just never did because of that very thing. I would be a little uncomfortable coming in. I would stand in the back, and I would just not fit in. I would just not fit in. I would stand in the back, and I would just not fit in. I would stand in the back, and I would just not fit in. I would stand in the back, and I would just not fit in. I would stand in the back, and I would just not fit in. I would stand in the back, and I would just not fit in. I would stand in the back, and I would just not fit in. I would stand in the back, and I would just not fit in. I would stand in the back, and I would just not fit in. I would stand in the back, and I would just not fit in. I would stand in the back, and I would just not fit in. I would stand in the back, and I would just not fit in. I would stand in the back, and I would just not fit in. I would stand in the back, and I would just not fit in. I would stand in the back, and I would just not fit in. I would stand in the back, and I would just not fit in. I would stand in the back, and I would just not fit in. I would stand in the back, and I would just not fit in. I would stand in the back, and I would I would be analyzing the room.
Surveying.
And for people that have had their third, that would freak them out.
Well, they make great spies. I just would love to. I'll bet you Scorpio, rising Scorpio. So I bet there's a lot of spies that are that sign.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely for that. Yes, absolutely.
But well-dressed, too. I think they're very, and maybe I'm wrong, but I do believe that there's something about a well-dressed, a little bit Virgo-like in some ways.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, that's because of that deep intensity.
Yeah.
See, it shows up in the dress. It shows up. Mm-hmm. People that are intense, how you do anything is how you do everything, right? It shows up in all areas.
And again, the planet that rules?
Pluto and Mars.
Now, I know Mars real quick. Mars is the planet. We think about war. We think about that kind of thing. What is Pluto again?
Pluto is all about transformation. It really is about transformation. It
That's
also
why it's
rules
in this 8th house, right?
Yeah, it is 8th house. So sexuality is in there as well. See, these are matched well. Mm-hmm. Scorpios are very sexual.
Yes.
One of their big criticisms, actually. Too much so. But
I agree.
Pluto,
between Scorpios and Geminis, they're always criticized the most.
Yeah, I got both.
Oh, man, it's not fair.
But yeah, those are the characteristics of Pluto. Also a money focus as well, because Pluto rules other people's money in the 8th house.
Oh.
So
when the 8th house is also death, right?
Yes. And see, the whole characteristic of death in that context is, I like to think of the caterpillar turning into the butterfly. It's transformational death. So you put one thing to bed and you rise as something else. And that's been the story of my whole life.
In the house of money, it could be the death of one business, starting the new one.
Oh, yeah, it could. Yes, exactly. Well, that's it for this batch. So we'll come back in the next and last of this series, and we'll talk about Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces.
Ooh, the fun ones.
Yeah, we'll start with a party. Sagittarius.
All right. Subscribe to The Sky Vibe, the podcast, and it's free on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts. And thank you.